They told you nuts are healthy, but here's the shocking truth no one dares to say out loud. After age 60, some of the most popular nuts in your kitchen may be slowly killing your energy. They're raising your blood pressure, they're clouding your memory, and they're silently damaging your kidneys. What's worse? Most seniors eat them every single day thinking they're doing something good for their bodies. I'm Dr. James. I've spent over 30 years helping older men and women get back their energy, their sharp thinking, and yes, their strength. I've seen over and over how the right foods can bring life back. The wrong ones quietly steal it away. What if I told you there are 4 nuts that help your blood flow? They boost brain power, they balance blood sugar, they even help you sleep better, yet almost no one over 60 eats them regularly. At the same time, there are 4 others sold as healthy, but they're quietly causing swelling, they mess with your medications, they put your heart at risk. You deserve to know which is which. In this video, I'm going to show you all 8. The 4 you must eat every day, and the 4 you should never touch again. Clear, simple, and made just for your body after 60. Near the end, I'll tell you about one nut, the most dangerous of all. It's linked to memory loss and liver damage, and it might be in your kitchen right now. Before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You'll never miss another health lesson designed specifically for seniors like you. If this message speaks to you, type 1 in the comments. If it doesn't, type 0. Let me know how I can better serve your health and well-being. All right, now let's start with the 4 powerful nuts you should eat every single day. These aren't just snacks. They're natural medicine for your heart, your brain, your energy, and yes, even your bedroom performance. Let's look at each one and why they matter more than ever after 60. Brazil nuts, your thyroid and testosterone booster. I still remember one of my patients, a retired firefighter in his late 60s. Let's call him Jack. He came to me tired. His mind was foggy. He was frustrated with his low energy and poor performance. He had tried everything, powders, pills, special diets, but nothing brought back that spark he once had. We ran a full blood test. What we found didn't surprise me. Jack was very low in selenium, a trace mineral most men over 60 don't even know about, but one that plays a huge role in how we feel, think, and work. Here's where it gets interesting. I told Jack to do something simple. Eat 1 Brazil nut a day. Just 1. No pills, no complex plans. 3 weeks later, he came back to my office. His face looked different. He had more color. His eyes were brighter. He leaned in with a smile and said, "Dr. James, I don't know what's in that nut, but I feel alive again." That's the power of Brazil nuts. This amazing nut is the richest natural source of selenium on Earth. Just 1 single nut gives you over 130% of what you need each day. Unlike fake supplements, the selenium in Brazil nuts is bound to natural compounds. This makes it easier for your older body to absorb and use. Selenium is critical for activating thyroid hormones. These regulate everything from your metabolism and energy levels to your mood and memory. As we age, thyroid function tends to slow. This leads to fatigue, cold hands, weight gain, and a loss of that youthful spark. But selenium supports that function from the inside out. There's more. Selenium is essential for testosterone production, something most men don't realize. Low testosterone doesn't just affect libido. It affects your strength, your sleep, your motivation, even your ability to stay mentally sharp. Brazil nuts quietly support your body's ability to produce and balance this key hormone naturally and safely. But what really makes this nut special is how it protects your nerves. The fats in Brazil nuts help maintain your myelin sheath. That's the insulation around your nerves that keeps your reflexes sharp and your movement fluid. Without it, we move slower, think slower, and feel disconnected from the body we once knew so well. Keeping that myelin intact is one of the most important things you can do as you age. Brazil nuts support that directly. Now I always caution my patients, more is not better. Too much selenium can be toxic over time. That's why I recommend no more than 1 or 2 Brazil nuts per day. Keep them in the refrigerator, ideally still in the shell. Chew thoroughly. It's a small ritual with a massive return on investment. You don't need a bottle of pills. You just need nature's wisdom and the discipline to use it like Jack did. If one single nut can awaken your thyroid, recharge your testosterone, and protect your nerves, imagine what happens when you add the next nut to your daily routine. It's the one I call the silent guardian of your bones and your brain. Yet most seniors don't even realize what they're missing. Let's talk about it next. Almonds, the bone and brain defender. There's something incredibly comforting about almonds. Maybe it's their familiar crunch, or the subtle sweetness that lingers after each bite. For me, almonds remind me of my father. Every morning without fail, he'd sit by the window with a cup of warm tea and a small bowl of raw almonds. He never missed a day. He used to say, "These little things are keeping me sharp, son." Back then, I didn't fully understand the science, but now, after decades in medicine and aging research, I know he was absolutely right. Almonds are one of the most overlooked yet powerful allies in senior health. They're not just a snack, they are a daily defense system for 2 of the most vulnerable parts of the aging body, your bones and your brain. Let's start with your bones. After age 60, especially beyond 65, your bone density begins to decline rapidly. Falls become more dangerous. Fractures heal slower. Something as small as a misstep can turn into months of recovery. Almonds are rich in calcium, nearly 100 milliliters in just a quarter cup. But what makes them stand out is their magnesium. Magnesium acts like a traffic controller. It helps move calcium into your bones where it belongs instead of letting it clog your arteries. That combination of calcium and magnesium is rare in one food, but almonds deliver both. There's more. Almonds are loaded with fiber, around 3.5 grams per serving. This helps combat constipation, a struggle that nearly half of seniors quietly deal with every day. Regularity may not sound glamorous, but let me tell you, it makes all the difference in how you feel. From your energy to your mood, digestion plays a bigger role than most people realize. I often recommend 15 to 20 almonds a day, raw or dry roasted, unsalted, and always chewed well, especially for seniors with dental issues or swallowing difficulties. This step matters. Take your time. Make it a mindful habit. I tell my patients, you're not just eating a nut, you're investing in your future mobility, clarity, and dignity. Almonds are your silent protectors. Once you make them a daily ritual, your body begins to notice stronger steps, sharper thoughts, better days. But what if I told you there's a nut that looks just like your brain and might just be the best natural food we have for preventing memory loss, improving blood flow, and even helping you sleep through the night? That's exactly what's coming next. Let's talk about it. Walnuts, the brain's favorite food. There's a moment I'll never forget. Years ago, I visited a patient named Harold, a retired music teacher in his 70s who had recently lost his wife. He was struggling not just with grief, but with memory. He would forget names, misplace his keys, even get confused driving home. During our visit, he opened his kitchen cabinet and pulled out a small glass jar. Inside were walnuts. He looked at me and said, "I read somewhere they're good for the brain, and they look like a brain too." That stuck with me, not just because it was true, but because Harold, in his quiet, determined way, was trying to fight back. And the science backs him up. Walnuts are extraordinary. They're more than a snack. They're one of the most potent brain-supporting foods nature offers. Structurally, yes, they resemble the brain, but chemically they do something even more profound. Walnuts are rich in alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA. That's a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid that helps build and maintain the membranes of brain cells. As we age, these membranes lose flexibility. Communication between neurons slows down. Memory becomes fuzzy. But ALA helps keep those connections strong. That's just the beginning. Walnuts are loaded with polyphenols. These are powerful antioxidants that cross the blood-brain barrier and directly reduce inflammation in neural tissue. Why does that matter? Because inflammation is a silent killer of memory, focus, and cognition. It's one of the key drivers of dementia and Alzheimer's. Unlike many other foods, walnuts target that inflammation at the source. One study in the Journal of Nutrition showed that seniors who ate just 1.5 ounces of walnuts per day for 8 weeks saw measurable improvements in processing speed and mental flexibility. These aren't abstract numbers. That's the difference between catching a loved one's joke, remembering a birthday, or staying engaged in conversation. But here's something most people don't know. Walnuts also contain natural melatonin. That's the hormone your body produces to regulate sleep. As we grow older, our melatonin levels decline. This leads to restless nights and poor recovery. For many of my older patients, simply adding a small handful of walnuts in the evening helps them fall asleep faster and wake up feeling more restored. I usually recommend eating 7 to 9 walnut halves per day. Keep them refrigerated to protect their delicate oils, which can spoil if exposed to heat or light. Don't worry about the slight bitterness in the skin. That's where many of the antioxidants live. Think of it as a little kick of protection with every bite. Harold still eats his walnuts every day. While he still misses his wife deeply, he told me recently that his memory feels sharper, his focus stronger, and his sense of self a bit more intact. Walnuts won't change your life overnight. But over time, they quietly support the most precious thing you own, your mind. If walnuts are the food of the brain, then the next nut is the unsung hero of your blood pressure, your vision, and your blood sugar all at once. Most people overlook it, but once you know what it can do, you'll never see it the same way again. Let's talk about it. Pistachios, blood pressure, vision, and diabetes defense. When I was growing up, my grandfather had this old wooden bowl on the kitchen counter. Every afternoon, he'd sit in his armchair with a handful of pistachios, carefully cracking them open one by one. I never thought much of it back then, just a quiet habit of an aging man. But now, with all we know about nutrition and aging, I realize he was doing something incredibly wise. Without knowing the science, he was protecting his blood pressure, his eyesight, and even his ability to manage sugar. That bowl of pistachios was more than a snack. It was a daily dose of defense. Pistachios are without question one of the most underrated superfoods for seniors. They're often overshadowed by flashier options, but what they lack in fame, they more than make up for in function. For starters, they're one of the most potassium-rich nuts out there, clocking in at around 285 milliliters per serving. That's more than many fruits and vegetables. Potassium is critical for maintaining healthy blood pressure, especially after 60 when arterial stiffness and salt sensitivity tend to increase. For older adults trying to manage hypertension naturally, pistachios are a smart, safe ally. They're also rich in two powerful carotenoids, lutein and zeaxanthin. These play a vital role in eye health. These compounds accumulate in the retina and help filter out harmful blue light. They slow the progression of age-related macular degeneration. That's no small thing. Vision loss is one of the most feared conditions among seniors. Pistachios provide gentle, consistent support for keeping your world sharp and colorful. But perhaps most importantly, pistachios are surprisingly helpful for blood sugar regulation. With about 3 grams of fiber per ounce and a naturally low glycemic index, they help slow digestion, reduce post-meal sugar spikes, and keep insulin levels stable. For the millions of seniors dealing with diabetes or prediabetes, adding a handful of pistachios each day can quietly make a real difference, especially when replacing more processed, sugary snacks. There's also a behavioral benefit here that's worth mentioning. When you eat pistachios in the shell, the act of shelling them slows down your pace. That gives your body more time to register fullness. This makes it easier to avoid overeating. Plus, the empty shells serve as a visual cue. They help you track how much you've had without having to count calories or use measuring cups. It turns snacking into a mindful, calming ritual. I typically recommend about 1 ounce per day. That's roughly 49 pistachios. Unsalted or lightly salted varieties are best. If you have arthritis or limited hand strength, look for the naturally half-opened ones to make shelling easier. Pistachios offer a rare combination: nutrient density, flavor, and therapeutic benefit. They support your heart, your eyes, your blood sugar, and your sense of control over your body. But here's the thing. While these 4 nuts can elevate your health after 60, there are others that can quietly tear it down. Nuts that look innocent, even healthy, but are actually triggering inflammation, raising blood pressure, interfering with medications, and contributing to brain fog. You deserve to know what they are. In the next section, I'll show you exactly which nuts to avoid and why they may be doing more harm than good. Stay with me. This is where the truth gets surprising. Peanuts, the inflammation time bomb. I'll never forget the day George came into my office, 72 years old, proud Vietnam vet, and a man who took pride in staying active. But lately, he said, something felt off. His joints ached more than usual. He was tired all the time. His blood pressure had crept up despite no major changes to his lifestyle. As we talked about his daily habits, one thing stood out. He snacked on peanuts almost every day. "They're healthy, right?" he asked. That moment reminded me just how much confusion still exists around food we think is harmless, especially peanuts. The truth is, peanuts are not really nuts. They're legumes, grown underground. And that one detail makes a world of difference. Because of the way they grow, peanuts are highly susceptible to mold, specifically to a toxin called aflatoxin. This mold isn't something you can see or smell. It's invisible, tasteless, but over time, it can build up in the body. It harms the liver. It weakens the immune system. It even raises the risk of certain cancers. Seniors, whose detox systems naturally slow with age, are especially vulnerable to these kinds of invisible threats. But that's not the only concern. Even without an allergy, peanuts can trigger inflammatory responses in many people. Subtle, chronic inflammation that affects the joints, the heart, and even the brain. That kind of inflammation isn't loud. It doesn't show up overnight. But it accumulates slowly and quietly. It contributes to arthritis flare-ups, mental fog, and cardiovascular stress. For older adults already facing stiffness and fatigue, peanuts can become the fuel behind the fire. and most have no idea. Then there's the salt. Most commercial peanuts are roasted and salted, sometimes excessively. For seniors managing high blood pressure, which is more than 60% of adults over 65, this added sodium only worsens the problem. Add to that the hydrogenated oils and sugars often found in commercial peanut butters, and you've turned a simple snack into a daily dose of danger. Even natural peanut butter isn't off the hook. Peanuts have a high omega-6 fatty acid content. This can throw off the delicate balance of omega-3 to omega-6 in your body. That's a key factor in controlling inflammation. That imbalance alone can sabotage circulation, worsen memory, and lower overall resilience in aging bodies. And if you take medications like blood thinners, peanuts contain compounds that can interfere with absorption, especially vitamin K. This makes medication management even more complicated than it already is for many seniors juggling multiple prescriptions. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to panic if they've had a peanut here and there, but if you're over 60 and eating them regularly, it's time to seriously reconsider. There are safer, more supportive alternatives that provide the same satisfying crunch without the inflammatory and toxic risks. What if I told you that the next nut on our list doesn't just raise your blood sugar? It may also increase your risk of kidney stones, interfere with digestion, and even lead to dangerous choking episodes in older adults. It's one of the most deceptively popular snacks out there. Let's take a closer look. Cashews, the blood sugar and kidney stone trap. A few years back, I had a patient named Linda. She was 70, full of warmth and laughter, and loved to bake treats for her grandchildren. When she came in complaining of fatigue, stomach discomfort, and unexpected spikes in her blood sugar, we dug into her habits. To my surprise, cashews came up again and again, not just in her snacks, but in her cooking, her smoothies, even in the so-called healthy granola bars she kept in her purse. "They're good for you, right?" she asked with a hopeful smile. That moment stuck with me because it reminded me how easily well-meaning choices can backfire as we age. Cashews are tricky. They wear the costume of a healthy snack. Creamy texture, mild flavor, often found in health food stores. But underneath the surface, cashews carry risks that most people, especially seniors, rarely hear about. First, let's talk about blood sugar. Cashews have a relatively high carbohydrate content for a nut, about 9 grams per ounce, and a notable glycemic effect. That means they can cause your blood sugar to spike more quickly than you'd expect. For the 25% of seniors already diagnosed with diabetes and the 48% who are considered pre-diabetic, those little spikes add up. The damage is often silent. You don't feel it happening until the consequences show up later, in the form of fatigue, brain fog, or worsening glucose levels at your next checkup. Cashews are also loaded with something called oxalates. These are naturally occurring compounds that bind with calcium in your gut. This makes it harder for your body to absorb this essential mineral. For older adults who are already at higher risk for osteoporosis and calcium deficiency, this becomes a problem. Worse, oxalates can accumulate in the body and contribute to the formation of kidney stones, a painful condition that becomes more common and more dangerous with age. There's another risk many people overlook, especially those with swallowing difficulties, which is common in older adults. Cashews are smooth, curved, and surprisingly easy to aspirate. In fact, among all the nuts, cashews are among the most frequently involved in choking incidents. That creamy texture that feels so comforting, it can also become a silent hazard. Finally, there's the issue of processing. Most people don't realize that cashews in their raw state are toxic. They contain urushiol, the same chemical found in poison ivy. To make them safe, they have to be heavily processed, steamed, cooked, stripped. But in that process, many of their natural nutrients are lost. What you're left with is a nut that tastes good but does little to support your health, and in some cases does harm. That's why I recommend seniors swap cashews for safer, more functional alternatives, like almonds or walnuts. But while cashews may seem problematic, the next nut on our list is something far more concerning when it comes to weight gain and heart health. Most people think it's a luxury health food, but it might be silently sabotaging your efforts to stay fit and healthy after 60. Macadamia nuts, the silent weight gainer. I once had a patient named Carl, a retired engineer in his late 60s, sharp mind, great sense of humor, and very disciplined with his routines. But over a few months, Carl began putting on weight. Gradually, subtly, his blood pressure was creeping up. He often felt sluggish after meals. When we sat down to review his diet, he chuckled and said, "Well, Doc, I don't eat much junk, but I do treat myself to a few macadamia nuts each night. They're supposed to be heart healthy, right?" That's when I knew we had to talk. Macadamia nuts are luxurious. Their rich, buttery taste and smooth texture make them feel indulgent, like the perfect healthy treat. They're often marketed that way, especially in high-end health food circles. But what most people don't realize, especially as we get older, is that macadamias pack an enormous amount of fat and calories into every single bite. Just 1 ounce, barely a handful, contains nearly 200 calories and 22 grams of fat. For someone over 60, whose metabolism has naturally slowed and who may already be less physically active, that adds up fast. You're taking in the calorie load of a full mini meal without even feeling full. That's what I call silent weight gain. It sneaks up on you. No binging, no sweets. Just a slow, steady increase that becomes hard to reverse. But it's not just about weight. Macadamias are also one of the highest in saturated fat among all nuts, about 3 grams per ounce. That's the kind of fat that can raise LDL cholesterol and place more strain on an aging heart. For seniors who are already managing cholesterol or blood pressure issues, this kind of fat isn't just unhelpful. It can quietly undo your progress. Then there's the issue of the gallbladder. Many older adults develop gallstones and don't even know it. They might feel occasional bloating or discomfort after meals, but nothing too alarming. Macadamia nuts, due to their extremely high fat content, can trigger these stones to move. This causes painful attacks that can result in emergency visits or even surgery. I've seen it happen more than once. Often the person had no idea the problem was building inside them. Let's not forget oral health. Macadamia nuts are dense and hard. For seniors with bridges, crowns, or sensitive teeth, chewing them can be risky. I've had patients crack dental work on these nuts. This results in expensive and painful dental visits. I always tell my patients this: macadamias might feel like a small indulgence, but they carry a heavy price, one that sneaks in slowly, then stays for the long haul. There are other nuts that offer satisfaction without that burden. While macadamias may weigh you down, the next nut on our list is something far more concerning. It's tiny, oily, and often slips under the radar. But it can interfere with medications, trigger strange taste disturbances, and even cause dangerous weight loss in older adults. Most people have no idea just how problematic it can be. Let's talk about it. Pine nuts, the medication disruptor. Several years ago, I had a patient named Ruth. She was 74, thoughtful, and meticulous with her health. She tracked her medications, walked daily, and loved experimenting with new recipes. One day she came into my office with a strange concern. "Dr. James," she said, "everything tastes metallic. Even water tastes off. It's been going on for weeks." At first, we looked at medications, digestion, hydration, but nothing stood out. Then she mentioned something she'd added to her diet recently, a homemade pesto rich with pine nuts. That's when everything clicked. Pine nuts may be small, but for older adults, they can cause surprisingly big problems. Let's start with what happened to Ruth. She was experiencing what's known as pine mouth, a bitter, metallic taste distortion that can last for days or even weeks after eating certain types of pine nuts. It's not dangerous in itself, but here's the hidden issue. When food and water suddenly taste unpleasant, many seniors unconsciously eat and drink less. For someone already at risk of unintentional weight loss or dehydration, this seemingly minor side effect can lead to serious consequences: frailty, nutrient deficiencies, even hospitalizations. Taste matters more than people realize, especially in later life. But pine nuts don't stop there. One of the biggest concerns with this particular nut is its potential to interfere with common medications. Pine nuts contain specific compounds that can alter how drugs are metabolized in the liver. This includes medications for blood pressure, cholesterol, and mood. 3 of the most commonly prescribed drug classes for older adults. The risk, reduced effectiveness, or unexpected side effects. Most seniors are never warned about this interaction because it's still poorly understood by many clinicians. There's also the issue of inflammation. Pine nuts are high in polyunsaturated fats. These are delicate and prone to oxidation, especially if the nuts have been stored improperly or sit on the shelf too long. Once oxidized, these fats can actually promote inflammation instead of reducing it. For someone managing arthritis, joint pain, or inflammatory conditions like metabolic syndrome, this adds fuel to the fire. Because pine nuts are so often blended into sauces or baked into dishes, most people don't even realize they're consuming them. Another concern I've seen more than once in my older patients is aspiration risk. Pine nuts are small, slippery, and can easily be inhaled accidentally, especially by those on medications that cause dry mouth, which is incredibly common after 60. Combine that with age-related changes in swallowing reflexes, and you've got a hidden choking hazard. For all of these reasons, I urge seniors to avoid pine nuts altogether. There are plenty of alternatives that offer flavor and healthy fats without these risks. Food should nourish and protect, not complicate or endanger. Now you've learned which nuts to eat and which ones to avoid. But what does this all mean for your daily life, your energy, your memory, your heart, even your intimacy? In the final message, I'll help you connect the dots and show you how these small choices can create massive changes. Because at your age, it's never too late to rewrite the story of your health, one bite at a time. Final doctor's message: you're never too old to change what matters. When I reflect on all the years I've spent sitting across from men and women in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, I've come to realize something powerful. Aging doesn't break us down. It's the little habits, done repeatedly over time, that either build us up or quietly wear us down. And food, especially something as small and seemingly innocent as a handful of nuts, is often at the center of that story. Today we talked about 8 nuts, 4 that I truly believe every senior should eat daily: Brazil nuts, almonds, walnuts, and pistachios. Not because they're trendy, not because they're sold in a fancy health aisle, but because they work. They support your thyroid and testosterone. They strengthen your bones and your brain. They improve your sleep. They protect your heart. And they help you feel in control of your health again. Then we looked at 4 others: peanuts, cashews, macadamia nuts, and pine nuts. These are quietly doing the opposite, causing inflammation, disrupting medications, spiking blood sugar, contributing to weight gain, or even weight loss in all the wrong ways. Most of them are marketed as healthy, or at the very least, harmless. But after 60, your body changes. What once gave you energy might now leave you sluggish. What once passed through easily could now be fueling issues you don't even realize are connected to your food. I want to say something clearly here, not as a doctor, but as someone who's watched people I care about struggle silently. You are not broken. You're not too old. Your health is not a lost cause. The body you wake up in today is still listening. It's still changing. And it still responds, sometimes in incredible ways, to the small, consistent choices you make. I've seen it in the man who swapped peanuts for pistachios and lowered his blood pressure without adding a single new medication. In the woman who ate 1 Brazil nut a day and finally felt her energy return. In the couple who started snacking on walnuts in the evening and noticed they were both sleeping through the night for the first time in months. These aren't miracles. They're biology. They're your body doing what it's meant to do when you give it the right fuel. So as you walk into your kitchen tomorrow morning or pass by the snack aisle later this week, pause. Think back to what you've learned here. Choose wisely. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to change everything at once, but choose one thing and keep choosing it. That's how change begins. What it's really about. Because this isn't just about cholesterol numbers or blood pressure charts. It's about waking up feeling steady on your feet, remembering the name of the neighbor who stopped by, having the energy to walk, to laugh, to hold hands a little longer. It's about staying in the game, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and intimately. I'm Dr. James, and I want you to remember this. You're not too old to feel strong again. You're not too far gone to reclaim your energy, your clarity, your confidence. You just need to give your body the right things, and it will meet you more than halfway. Start with the nuts. Let that be your first signal to your body and to yourself that you're ready to thrive again. Choose Brazil nuts for your energy. Choose almonds for your bones and brain. Choose walnuts for your memory and sleep. Choose pistachios for your heart and blood pressure. And let go of the ones that are working against you. Say goodbye to peanuts and their hidden inflammation. Skip the cashews and their blood sugar spikes. Pass on the macadamias and their calorie traps. Avoid the pine nuts and their medication interference. These are small changes, but small changes, repeated daily, become powerful transformations. Your body is waiting, your health is listening, and your best days, they're not behind you. They're ahead of you, waiting for you to make the choice. Final call to action. If this video helped you understand something new about your health, please hit the like button and subscribe. Share it with someone you care about who might need this information. Leave a comment below and tell me which nuts you're going to start eating and which ones you're going to stop. Remember, you have more control over your health than you think. You have more power than you know, and you have more good days ahead than you realize. Start today. Start with one nut. Start with one choice. Your body will thank you for it. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself. You're worth it.